At some point in your life, a quiet moment arrives. It may not come with noise or drama. It may not announce itself. But it shows up as a simple question: is this really the life I want to live? And in that moment, everything becomes clear. Because deep down, you already know the answer. You know that something must change. You know that waiting has cost you time. You know that depending on others has kept you small, and you know that the only way forward is to take control. Most people are not stuck because they lack talent. They are stuck because they lack ownership. They wait for permission. They wait for approval. They wait for someone else to fix what they are afraid to face. But responsibility is not a burden. Responsibility is freedom. The moment you take responsibility for your life, you take back your power. You stop reacting and you start leading. Every choice you make, no matter how small, is shaping your future. The habits you build, the conversations you avoid, the excuses you accept, they all accumulate, and over time they create your reality. If you don't like where you are, the solution is not to wish for different circumstances. The solution is to become a different version of yourself. Growth is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming intentional. Depending on others for motivation, validation, or direction will always leave you vulnerable. When their support disappears, so does your momentum. That is why true strength is built internally. It is built in those moments when no one is watching, when no applause is coming, when quitting would be easy. You grow when you keep going anyway. You build character when you honor your commitments to yourself. And over time, those small acts of self-respect turn into unshakable confidence. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you want to become. It is not exciting, it is not glamorous, but it is powerful. Discipline is choosing progress over comfort. It is waking up early when you would rather sleep. It is doing the hard work before you earn the reward. And while motivation fades, discipline compounds. One day at a time, it builds a life that no one can take away from you. Waiting for the perfect moment is a form of fear disguised as patience. The truth is, there will never be a perfect time. There will only be now. Action creates clarity. Movement creates momentum. You learn by doing. You grow by trying. You succeed by failing forward. Every step, even the uncertain ones, teaches you something valuable. Progress begins when courage becomes stronger than doubt. Taking control also means leading yourself. Setting standards for how you think, how you act, and how you respond. It means choosing integrity when shortcuts tempt you. It means choosing long-term growth over short-term comfort. Self-leadership is not about control. It is about alignment, aligning your actions with your values and your dreams. When you stop depending on others, you become resilient. When you take control of your life, you become intentional. And when you commit to growth, you become unstoppable. Your life is not meant to be a reflection of other people's expectations. It is meant to be an expression of your purpose, your courage, and your potential. So stop waiting. Start building. Stop doubting. Start becoming. Because the moment you decide to take control, everything begins to change. There is a powerful shift that happens the moment you stop looking outward for answers and start looking inward for direction. It is the moment you realize that depending on others to shape your life has slowly weakened your sense of purpose. You may not notice it at first. It shows up as hesitation, as second guessing, as waiting for permission to be who you already know you can become. But deep down, you feel it, a quiet frustration that reminds you you were meant for more. We are taught, often unintentionally, to seek approval. From teachers, from bosses, from family, from society, and while guidance is valuable, dependence is dangerous. When your confidence depends on the opinions of others, your courage disappears the moment their support fades. That is why true independence is not about rebellion. It is about responsibility. It is about choosing to own your path, even when it is uncomfortable, uncertain, or lonely. Taking control of your life begins with clarity. You must know what you stand for before you can stand strong. Without a clear sense of purpose, you drift, you react, you become busy instead of effective, but when you define your values, your decisions become simpler. You no longer chase every opportunity, you chase the right ones. You no longer try to please everyone. You focus on becoming someone you respect. This journey is not easy, and it is not supposed to be. Growth demands sacrifice. It asks you to let go of comfort so you can reach your potential. It requires patience when results are slow and courage when fear is loud. But every challenge you face while standing on your own builds resilience, and resilience is the foundation of lasting success. Discipline becomes your greatest ally, not the kind that punishes, but the kind that protects. Discipline protects your focus. It protects your time, it protects your dreams. When you commit to consistent action, even on difficult days, you create momentum, and momentum changes everything. Small actions repeated daily form habits. Habits shape identity, and identity determines destiny. Too many people wait for confidence before they act, but confidence is not the starting point, it is the result. You earn confidence by keeping your promises to yourself. You earn it by doing what is necessary, not what is easy. Over time, self-trust grows, and once you trust yourself, the opinions of others lose their power. Taking control also means accepting uncertainty. There are no guarantees, no perfect plans, no risk-free paths, but there is progress, and progress requires courage. Each step forward, no matter how small, is a declaration that you believe in your ability to learn, adapt, and rise. Leadership begins within. Before you can inspire others, you must learn to inspire yourself. Before you can guide, you must grow. When you lead your life with intention, others will naturally follow your example, not your instructions. In the end, independence is not about isolation, it is about empowerment. It is about standing strong in who you are while remaining open to growth. When you stop depending on others and start taking control, you do not lose connection, you gain direction. And in that direction, you discover the strength, clarity, and purpose that have been waiting inside you all along. There comes a time in every life when the noise around you becomes louder than the voice inside you. Advice, opinions, expectations, comparisons, they all begin to shape your choices. Slowly, almost invisibly, you start to measure your worth by how others respond to you. And without realizing it, you hand over control of your life, not because you are weak, but because you are human. We all want to belong, we all want to be accepted, but the cost of belonging should never be your identity. Depending on others often feels safe. It removes risk. It gives you someone to blame when things go wrong and someone to credit when things go right. But safety can become a trap because growth lives outside comfort, and when you stay comfortable for too long, you stop becoming who you were meant to be. Taking control begins with courage, the courage to disappoint, the courage to fail, the courage to stand alone. It is the courage to choose long-term fulfillment over short-term approval, and while that choice can feel lonely, it is also liberating. Because once you commit to your own path, you stop needing permission to move forward. The greatest leaders, creators, and change makers did not wait for validation. They listened to a deeper calling, they trusted a vision that others could not yet see, they moved forward even when doubt surrounded them. Not because they were fearless, but because their purpose was stronger than their fear. Control is not about force. It is about alignment. It is about living in harmony with your values, your goals, and your potential. When your actions reflect who you truly are, you experience a sense of peace that no approval can replace. You begin to move with clarity instead of confusion, intention instead of impulse. This path requires discipline. Not rigid rules, but consistent standards. Standards for how you treat your time. Standards for how you speak to yourself. Standards for what you tolerate. Discipline is choosing growth when excuses are easier. It is choosing effort when comfort is tempting. And in those choices you build self-respect. Self-respect becomes confidence, and confidence becomes momentum. You will stumble, you will doubt, you will question whether it is worth it, but each obstacle is not a sign to stop. It is proof that you are moving. Progress is rarely loud. Most of the time it happens quietly. In daily commitments no one applauds. But over time, those quiet commitments compound into extraordinary transformation. Waiting for certainty is another form of delay. Life does not offer guarantees. It offers opportunities, and opportunities demand action. You do not need to know every step. You only need to take the next one. Clarity comes after movement, not before it. When you stop depending on others, you begin to trust yourself. And trust is powerful. It allows you to take risks, to recover from setbacks, to learn without fear of judgment. You stop asking, what will they think, and start asking, what kind of life do I want to build? This is where true freedom lies, in responsibility, in courage, in choice. Because when you take control of your life, you do not become selfish. You become intentional, and intentional people change not only their own lives, but the lives of everyone they touch. At some point, every person reaches a crossroads where comfort and growth stand in opposite directions. Comfort whispers that you have time, that someone else will handle it, that things will eventually work out. Growth demands action. It asks you to step forward when the path is unclear, to trust yourself when certainty is absent, and to move before you feel ready. This moment is where dependence ends and leadership begins. Many people spend their lives preparing instead of doing. They gather information, wait for better conditions, and search for reassurance. But preparation without action is simply another form of fear. Real progress begins when you decide that learning through experience is more valuable than waiting for perfection. Action is the great clarifier. It reveals what works, what doesn't, and who you are becoming. Taking control of your life is not about dominating circumstances. It is about mastering your mindset. It is the ability to remain steady when things fall apart and focused when distractions multiply. When you control your thoughts, you control your choices, and when you control your choices, you shape your future. Every meaningful transformation begins internally, long before it becomes visible externally. Self-leadership requires honesty. You must be willing to confront your excuses, your fears, and your limiting beliefs. Growth begins the moment you stop lying to yourself about what you are capable of. You are not limited by your past. You are limited by the story you continue to tell yourself about your past. Rewrite that story and your future changes. Discipline is the daily expression of self-respect. It is showing up for your dreams even when enthusiasm fades. It is choosing consistency over intensity. Intensity burns fast and fades quickly. Consistency builds slowly and lasts. With each disciplined action, you send yourself a message, I am worth the effort. Over time, that message becomes unbreakable confidence. Dependence often disguises itself as loyalty or tradition, but loyalty that costs you your growth is not loyalty, and tradition that limits your potential is not guidance. Respect your roots, but do not let them trap you. Honor where you came from, but do not let it define where you can go. Progress requires both gratitude and courage. Every challenge you face while standing on your own builds strength. Struggle is not punishment, it is preparation. The resistance you experience is shaping your resilience, sharpening your focus, and deepening your character. Without struggle, there is no growth. Without growth, there is no fulfillment. Control also means patience. Not passive waiting, but active persistence. It is understanding that meaningful success takes time, and that steady progress is more powerful than sudden breakthroughs. Each small win compounds. Each lesson learned becomes a stepping stone. Over time, what once seemed impossible becomes inevitable. When you take control of your life, you stop living reactively and start living intentionally. You no longer chase approval. You chase purpose. You no longer fear failure. you learn from it, and you no longer depend on others to define your worth. You define it yourself. This is the path of true empowerment. It is not easy, it is not fast, but it is real. And in choosing it, you choose a life built on strength, clarity, and purpose. A life that reflects who you truly are and everything you are capable of becoming. There is a quiet strength that emerges when you finally decide to stand on your own. It is not loud. It does not seek attention, but it is steady, grounded, and unshakable. This strength is born the moment you stop waiting for others to lead and begin leading yourself. Because the truth is, the direction of your life will never change until you do. Most people don't lack potential. They lack clarity. They drift from one decision to the next, guided by circumstance rather than intention. They react instead of respond, and in that reaction they surrender control. Taking control is not about forcing outcomes. It is about choosing purpose. When your actions are rooted in purpose, even the smallest steps move you forward. Purpose gives meaning to effort. Without it, discipline feels like punishment. With it, discipline becomes devotion. Every early morning, every difficult choice, every moment of restraint becomes a declaration of who you are becoming. Purpose transforms struggle into progress. Independence begins with self-trust, and self-trust is earned. You earn it when you show up consistently, when you follow through, when you face discomfort instead of avoiding it. Each promise you keep to yourself strengthens your confidence. Each challenge you overcome expands your belief. Over time, you realize that you are capable of far more than you once imagined. Depending on others often delays this discovery. When you rely on external validation, you never fully step into your power. You shrink your dreams to fit expectations. You silence your instincts to avoid criticism, and in doing so, you trade authenticity for acceptance. But true fulfillment comes from alignment, not approval. Taking control also requires courage, the courage to be misunderstood, the courage to fail publicly, and the courage to grow privately. Growth often happens in isolation, far from applause. It happens in unseen hours of effort, reflection, and resilience. And though it may feel lonely, it is in those moments that you build character. Challenges will arise. Doubt will whisper, fear will question your decisions, but none of these are signals to stop. They are signals that you are stretching beyond comfort. And comfort, while safe, is rarely transformative. Transformation demands discomfort. It demands risk. It demands commitment. Leadership begins internally. Before you can influence the world, you must influence your habits. Before you can change your circumstances, you must change your mindset. Self-leadership is the foundation upon which every meaningful success is built. When you master yourself, you gain the ability to navigate uncertainty with confidence. Time will test your resolve. Progress will seem slow. Results may not appear when you expect them, but persistence compounds. Every step forward, no matter how small, is building momentum. And momentum, once established, is difficult to stop. When you take control of your life, you no longer wait for permission to grow. You give it to yourself. You no longer seek reassurance. You create certainty through action. You no longer depend on others to define your worth. You define it through purpose and effort. This is what it means to truly live, not merely exist, but to engage, to strive, to become. Because the moment you stop depending on others and start trusting yourself, you unlock the power to shape a life that reflects your deepest values, your highest standards, and your boldest dreams.